Look at the handshake at the end of the 2025 US Open fourth round between Taylor Townsend and Jelena Ostapenko. If you blink, you miss the moment. The professional veneer of the WTA Tour completely shattered. As the players met at the net, the microphones caught a phrase that has been echoing through the locker rooms from New York to Riyadh. No class, no education. Those were the 4 words Ostapenko fired at Townsend before storming off the court. Most fans saw this as a typical flashpoint between 2 high-intensity competitors, but if you look at the Hawkeye data and the tactical timing of the preceding 3 games, you realize this wasn't just an emotional outburst. This was the climax of a calculated psychological war that had been brewing since the first ball was struck in the 2025 season. We have been told that tennis is a game of margins, of serve percentages and unforced error counts, but the reality of the 2025 WTA season is that the outcome of a match is often decided long before the players step onto the court. It is decided in the player boxes, in the tactical use of medical timeouts, and in the weaponization of the rulebook to freeze an opponent's momentum. To understand why the 2025 season became the year of the messy handshake, we have to look at the player box dynamics. Throughout the Townsend and Ostapenko match, the cameras were focused on the court, but the real story was happening in the stands. Watch the reaction of Ostapenko's coach every time Townsend successfully executed a serve and volley play. By the middle of the second set, the box wasn't just offering technical advice, they were actively participating in the disruption of Townsend's rhythm. According to the WTA Rulebook, Section 4 on coaching, verbal instructions are allowed from the box, but there is a fine line between encouragement and hindrance. In the 7th game of that final set, Townsend actually paused her service motion and pointed toward the box. She wasn't looking at her opponent, she was looking at the source of the noise. This is the moment the partnership of focus ended. When you see a player of Townsend's experience lose a 4-point lead in a matter of minutes, you aren't seeing a physical collapse. You are seeing the result of a mental environment that has been made toxic by design. But why does this happen? To find the answer, we have to go back to the locker room culture of the modern tour. We often hear players say they are friends off the court, but the 2025 season has pulled back the curtain on a much colder reality. The social hierarchy of the WTA is built on defending points. Every week, a player isn't just playing against an opponent, they are playing against their own ghost from 12 months ago. If you reached the semifinals of a tournament last year, you are effectively starting this year's tournament with a massive debt. If you lose early, those points vanish. Your ranking plummets. Your seeding for the next Grand Slam disappears. This creates a desperate, high-pressure environment where drama becomes a tool for survival. When Ostapenko lashed out at the net, she wasn't just angry about a line call. She was looking at the live ranking projections on the big screen that showed her dropping out of the top 10 for the first time in 18 months. That drop represents more than just a number. It represents a loss of status, a loss of practice court priority, and a loss of leverage in the locker room. Now let's look at the smoking gun. This is the audio evidence that the public broadcast tried to normalize. During the changeover at 4-all in the 3rd set, the hot mic near the umpire's chair picked up a conversation that shouldn't have happened. Ostapenko wasn't talking to herself, she was speaking directly to the umpire about Townsend's movement between points. She was demanding a time violation call for a player who was actually playing faster than the tournament average. This is a classic WTA tactical weapon, the false grievance. By creating a narrative of unfairness with the umpire, a player can force their opponent to second-guess their own natural pacing. Townsend's average time between serves in the first 2 sets was 18.2 seconds. After the complaint, it spiked to 24.1 seconds. Those 6 seconds represent the difference between a player in a flow state and a player who is overthinking the clock. The financial cost of those 6 seconds is staggering. By losing that match, Townsend missed out on a $250,000 payout of $450,000. But more importantly, the ranking points lost in that single hour of psychological warfare effectively ended her bid to break into the top 15 before the end of your finals. The financial implications of off-court tension are rarely discussed, but they are the primary driver of player behavior. Most top players have contracts with apparel and racket sponsors that include performance bonuses and, more importantly, ranking floor clauses. If If a player drops below a certain ranking, say world number 20, their base pay from a sponsor can be cut by as much as 30 to 50%. When you see a player having a meltdown over a Hawkeye challenge in the first round of a 500-level event, you have to realize they aren't just fighting for a point. They are fighting for the $500,000 bonus that kicks in if they stay in the top 10 through the end of the year. This financial sword of Damocles turns every close call into a potential career-altering catastrophe. In the match between Emma Navarro and Qinwen Zhang earlier this year, the tension was so thick you could feel it through the screen. Zhang's rise to the top of the game has been met with a cold shoulder from many of her peers, and the no-class narrative has been weaponized against her to justify a lack of locker-room camaraderie. This isolation is a form of psychological warfare designed to make a rising star feel like an outsider, hoping that the mental strain will eventually translate into unforced errors on the court. This leads us to the ranking math, which is where the drama gets truly expensive. In the race to the WTA Finals in Riyadh, every point is a currency. When we look at the collapse of players like Maria Sakkari or the late-season struggle of Elena Rybakina, the numbers tell a story of mental fatigue. Rybakina won the WTA Finals, but look at her path through the group stage. She was defending nearly 2,000 points from her 2024 results, and the pressure of that defense was visible in her serve speed. In her opening match against Sabalenka, Rybakina's first serve speed dropped by an average of 8 miles per hour in the final set. This isn't a shoulder injury, it's a nervous system response to the weight of the rankings. If she hadn't won that title, her sponsorship renewal clauses with major apparel brands would have been triggered, potentially costing her millions in guaranteed income. The WTA is a high-stakes ecosystem where one icy handshake at the United Cup, like the one we saw between Danielle and Iga Swiatek in the early year, can set the tone for an entire quarter of the season. Collins making a screenshot of that frosty moment, her Instagram profile picture, wasn't just social media spice, it was a declaration of psychological independence. Let's dive deeper into the weaponization of the WTA Rulebook, specifically the Tactical Medical Timeout, or MTO. In 2025, the MTO has become the most controversial tactical maneuver in the sport. Look at the data. For matches that go into a third set, there is a 35% higher likelihood of a medical timeout being called by the player who just lost the second set. According to the WTA Rulebook, an MTO must be for a treatable medical condition, but fatigue is often dressed up as acute cramping. This is used to freeze the opponent's momentum, forcing them to sit on a cold bench for 10 minutes while the adrenaline leaves their system. We saw this in the Roland Garros final between Coco Gauff and Sabalenka. Gauff managed to navigate the interruptions to take her second Grand Slam, but the metrics show that Sabalenka's serve accuracy plummeted immediately after the long break in play. It's a legal way to cheat the rhythm of the game. If you can break your opponent's zone for 10 minutes, you can effectively restart the match on your own terms. Then there is the issue of the bathroom break. While the rules have been tightened to prevent excessive time off court, players have found ways to use these breaks as a psychological reset. If you look at the 2025 season data, players who take a bathroom break after losing a set win the subsequent set 42% of the time. This is significantly higher than the win rate for players who stay on court. It's not about the physical need, it's about the psychological power of walking away. It forces the winning player to wait, to think, and to let the what-if thoughts creep into their mind. The silence of the court while an opponent is gone is one of the most difficult things for a professional athlete to manage. The crowd starts to murmur, the commentators start to speculate, and the momentum begins to evaporate. This is drama as a tactical choice. Beyond the numbers, there is the human element of the player boxes. Treat the player box like a character in a drama, because that is exactly how the players see them. When Qinwen Zhang plays Sabalenka, the story isn't about the forehand cross-court, it's about the mental block that has formed over years of high-pressure losses. Zhang is the Olympic champion, yet against Sabalenka, she remains winless in major finals. Look at the marks on the clay during their French Open quarterfinal. Zhang was repeatedly checking marks that were clearly out, not because she didn't know the call, but because she was looking for a reason to stop the onslaught. She was looking for a way to break Sabalenka's focus focus. It's a desperate measure used by players who realize that their physical tools are no longer enough to win the war. The coach in the box becomes a mirror for the player's internal state. When you see a player stop clapping or look away after a double fault, that is a message being sent directly to the player. It says, "I have lost faith," and in a lonely world of a tennis court, that can be a death sentence for a player's performance. We also have to consider the second set syndrome. This is a phenomenon where a player who wins the first set 6-0 or 6-1 suddenly collapses in the second set. Why does this happen so frequently in the WTA? It's because the off-court drama and the narrative of the comeback are so ingrained in the tour's DNA. A player who is down feels they have nothing left to lose, so they start to employ disruptive tennis. They take longer between points, they complain to the umpire, they change their rackets 3 times in one set. This is designed to make the leading player feel guilty for winning so easily, or to make them feel that the momentum is unearned. The mental fortitude required to ignore these distractions is what separates the Grand Slam champions from the rest of the pack. Iga Swiatek's dominance is built on her ability to wear psychological blinkers. She creates a bubble where the opponent's drama cannot enter, but even she is not immune. Look at her reaction during the 2025 grass court season. When the surface neutralized her spin, she became increasingly frustrated with the crowd noise and the movement in the stands. This proved that even the most disciplined mind can be cracked if the external drama is persistent enough. The financial cost of these mental cracks extends into the world of gambling and match integrity. While we won't dive into the dark side of the sport, we have to acknowledge that the perceived drama can shift betting lines in real time. When a player calls for a trainer, the odds shift instantly. When a player screams at their box, the live win probability drops. This adds another layer of pressure. Players are aware that millions of dollars are riding on their body language. They know that a single slumped shoulder can trigger a wave of social media abuse from disgruntled bettors. This creates a feedback loop where the player feels they must act tough even when they are crumbling inside, leading to even more explosive outbursts when the pressure finally becomes too much to bear. The 2025 season has proven that the WTA is no longer just a sport of athletics, it is a sport of psychological endurance. When you see the year-end rankings and you see Sabalenka at number 1, followed by Swiatek and Gauff, you are looking at the survivors. These are the players who have figured out how to tune out the no-class comments, how to ignore the box interference, and how to navigate the financial pressure of defending thousands of points while their opponents try to freeze them out with tactical timeouts. The off-court drama doesn't just shape performance, it defines who is allowed to reach the top. Every unforced error you see on your screen is likely the result of a conversation that happened in the locker room or a look shared between a coach and a player 3 games earlier. This is the hidden reality of professional tennis. It is a beautiful, brutal, and deeply personal war that never truly ends when the final ball is called out. The next time you watch a highlight reel, don't just look at the winners. Look at the faces in the box. Look at the time between serves. Listen for the audio that the commentators try to talk over, because that is where the match is actually being won. The receipts are all there, hidden in plain sight within the Hawkeye traces and the rulebook loopholes. The question is no longer who has the better backhand, but who has the stronger stomach for the drama that happens when the cameras aren't looking. If you want to understand the future of the WTA, you have to stop looking at the scoreboard and start looking at the psychology of the stars. This is Net Court News, and this is how the game is truly played in 2025.